Hi all, welcome to Code with Kartiki. So today we are going to see concept of virtual environment in Python. So whenever you are working on single project or multiple project, so at that time you have to use concept of virtual environment. So before going to actual topic, we are going to see one analogy here. So in this video, we are going to see the concept of virtual environment, and in next video, we will see how to create a virtual environment in Python. So now for example, here is one example I have taken, real life example I have taken. So for example, there is one lady, her name is P, and she has three kids, P1, P2 and P3. And what she has done, she has sent these three kids to one PG, and this PG is very strange. So this is the host of this PG, and there is only one common storage is there for these kids, right? And this storage is very strange. So what is happening, so whenever P1 is keeping things, so it is allowing to keep P1's things, but when P2 is coming to keep his things, so it is removing P1 things and P2 is now able to keep his things, right? So next what happens, so P3 is trying to keep his things, so then it will remove P2's things, then it will keep P3's things, right? Means at a time only one person's things are allowed to keep in this storage. So this is the strange storage. And what is happening, the issue is whatever the P1 things are there, P2 things are there, P3 things are there, so those are very important for these people for living their life. So if you don't provide these things, so maybe they will die, right? So that is the issue, right? But here is one common storage, right? And these three people want to live also, so then we have to provide their dependencies, means the things on which these P1, P2, P3 are dependent, so those are called dependencies, right? So then what this P is doing, so mother of these three kids, what she has solution, she has provided three different cupboards for this uh, each kid. So for P1 she has provided different, P2 and P3, and which is separate from this global storage or common storage. So what she has done, she has provided cupboard C1 for this P1, C2 for P2 and C3 for P3 now, right? So because of this what happened, so whatever the P1's dependencies are there, so those will kept in the C1, and P2's dependencies are there, those will be residing here in C2 cupboard, and P3's dependencies are residing in this C3's cupboard, and this is isolated cupboard which is separate, that is common, right? So that will be there only, but these people are keeping their things in their separate cupboards. So this is the solution this lady has, right? And whatever these C1 things are there, so those are encapsulated here, means those are not coming out of this C1's cupboard, and C2's things are also will reside in C2's cupboard only. P3's things will remain here in the C3 cupboard only, right? So these are completely isolated from each other, and this global storage or common storage also, right? So this is the same thing happening in your computer whenever you are working on multiple projects, right? So what is happening, so for example here what is this P, so which analogy it is related, so here P is Python programming language, so host is host computer, and so this P1, P2, P3 kids are there, so these are the projects, so project 1, project 2, project 3, and this is the common storage. And what are the dependencies here, so dependencies of these projects are, so dependencies of these projects are modules, packages, then frameworks, right? So these are the dependencies of these projects, and without these dependencies these projects can't work, right? So this is project 1, project 2, so they are having its own dependencies, and without these dependencies they can't live, means they can't get executed, right? So that is the issue. and see. For example, here Django I am using for example, for p1 project. For p1 project I am using Django 2.2. For p2 project I am using 3.11, and for p3 project I am using 4.1. So this Django I am using, right? So this Django framework I am using. So these three are the different projects and I am installing. So I want these three different versions of Django for these three different projects, right? So what is the issue with this global environment? So in this global, so whatever the global storage is there, so at a time only one dependency we can store, right? Means if I install here Django 2.2 for execution of p1, then p1 project will work properly. But when I want to run p2 project and I want Django 3.11, so if I try to install this, so it will remove this and it will get installed, right? So this is happening. And if I try to run p3 and trying to install Django 4.1, then it will uninstall this 3.11. so that is the issue with this common storage. Means at a time only one dependency or one version of that framework can reside. So this is the issue. So that's why we need separate cupboards. In programming technology we can say those are the virtual environments. So what is mean by those virtual environments? So in host computer you are creating tiny environments. So you are creating tiny environments, and in these tiny environments means small computer you are creating, right? So it is very lightweight computer you are creating in this uh, your main computer. So that is called virtual environment, right? So then what you are doing? So for project p1 you are creating separate virtual environment, for project p2 you are creating separate virtual environment, and for project p3 separate virtual environment. So for project 1 I need Django 2.2, so I will install here in this virtual environment, and for project p2 I need 3.11, that will I install here in this virtual environment, and for p3 I need 4.1, that I will install in this virtual environment. So if any other Django version is there, Django 1.1 is installed here, so there will not be any issue. So what is installed in this global environment and in different virtual environment, it doesn't affect any environment. So these are the completely isolated from each other and global environment. So this is the concept of virtual environment. So it is not like that whenever you are working on multiple projects at that time you have to use only virtual environment. No, it is not like that. If you are working on single project also, you have to use virtual environment. So because of virtual environment, what is happening? Whatever the dependencies of your project, so that will be confined to one environment. So those these are not polluting global environment. So if you want to do any changes here, any framework you want to change version or anything like that, you have to do here, right? So that's why virtual environment is needed. So what is virtual environment? So tiny environment you are creating for your projects, and whatever the dependencies of these projects are there, so those are installed here in this virtual environment, and these virtual environments are completely isolated from each other and global environment. So isolated means whatever you are installing in this p2 p3, it doesn't matter what is installed in p1. So p1 will run its with own dependencies, p2 will run its with own dependencies, and p3 also run with its own dependencies, right? So those are the dependencies for project 1, and p2 project p2 dependencies will be there, and project p3's dependencies will be here in this virtual environment. So what you have to do, for each project you have to create separate virtual environment and you have to install its dependencies there, right? So in this way, this is the concept of virtual environment. In next video we are going to see how to create this virtual environment, and we are going to see how to install a particular package, module or framework in Python, right? So so this was the overview of this virtual environment concept. right? So if you like the content of my channel, please subscribe and press bell icon to get notification. Thanks for watching the video. So if you want to give any suggestion, you can give in comment box.